Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Room, the podcast brought to you by LFC Transfer Room. And I'm joined by two debutants today. Charlie, our writer and editor extraordinaire. Charlie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. We're recording this right after the City United game, so the result didn't go our way. But you can't be mad when United lose, can you? So, but I'm all good.
Yeah, it was a tricky one. I was unashamedly a Man United not fan today, but was hoping they'd nick something at least. But this is Manchester United nowadays. They can't nick a pasty from a shot. So I don't hold out much hope for Manchester United. I think if City are going to drop points, it's going to be against us or against those perhaps that you wouldn't expect them to drop. The likes of Southampton. So hopefully someone can take some points off City. But I still think we're going to win every game. Jamie, we were also joined by you today, and it's your first time as well on the LFC Transfer Room podcast. So how are you?
It is, yeah. I'm all good. Looking forward to it. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't expect anything from that game anyway, so I'm not too disappointed. But it would have been nice, but it's funny to watch their downfall anyway. So I'm all good.
Yeah, I think 4-1, to be fair, was pretty flattering for Manchester United as well. I think it could have been pretty much a demolition job there. The stat that came up in the Sky Sports corner was pretty damning when it said that Manchester City had 92% possession in the last 15 minutes. That just shows the demise of Manchester United and, how far away from City they are, but also from us. So, as I said, hopefully other teams can take those points away, and we still have to play Manchester United. So there's a nice 3 points there for us anyway. So on with the show. So we are 6 points behind Manchester City with a game in hand, and it's pretty much as you were, because if we beat Manchester City, really you would say, we would be in pole position with the goal difference. I know the goal difference is quite slim. There's a lot to play for, and there will be a lot of goals flying in, especially by City look today. Kevin De Bruyne just looked like the best player in the world, if I'm completely honest. He just looked untouchable today. And it's going to be an interesting and tense next 10 game weeks. So we'll see what happens. But on to the transfer roundup. And the transfer roundup is where our website, LFC Transfer Room and Sports Illustrated, every single week, every single day, we bring you transfer rumours about Liverpool Football Club and all those linked in and out. So the top four are: speaking on an interview with fan media site Area Napoli, journalist Paolo Esposito said Napoli are preparing an offer for Divock Origi worth £50,000 a week and believes that an agreement can be reached in the near future. Now, Origi currently is on £60,000 a week on Merseyside. Frank McAvenny, former Red, in a separate report, believes that this move is nailed on. According to reports, Bayern Munich are looking to replace winger Serge Gnabry and are aiming to hijack Liverpool and Manchester United target Antony, who plays for Ajax. Reports from the German outlet Sport Bild say that Bayern Munich are eyeing up a move for the Brazilian if Serge Gnabry does not sign a new contract. Liverpool have emerged as potential suitors for Real Madrid attacker Marco Ascencio, as per Spanish news outlet Sport. Ascencio has just 18 months left on the current deal, so the Liga club are looking to cash in, and they are willing to let him go for a region of around about 50 or 60 million euros. And finally, Liverpool target Jed Spence, who is he's playing in the Championship for Nottingham Forest. He's currently on loan from Middlesbrough. Has said that Bayern Munich scouts, again, Bayern, are looking at him. He's the English right back, and he's had a really, really good season, actually, and will continue to do so for the next coming weeks. The scouts will continue to look at him for the next few weeks. The German clubs will make a move for him if they continue to be impressed what they see so far. Now, we're going to talk about Liverpool's right-hand side in around about 10, 15 minutes, because I do believe that's a topic worth covering. Lads, anything in there that catches your eye or catches your ear at all that you would like to explore further, or perhaps think yes or no?
I think the Origi one's a bit very interesting because early in actually in the January transfer window, I did speak to a couple of supporters from Lazio, and they run La Lazio. I don't know how you say it, but they're a really good page. They got some good connections with the clubs, and they said that they were interested in Origi. And obviously that was reported that there was a lot of Italian clubs interested in him as well. So, Napoli being interested makes a lot of sense. But one thing that did seem consistent during that time was that Origi would prefer to stay in the Premier League. And the only way that he was looking to leave the Prem was if he got a wage boost, basically. And obviously, as you've said there, he's going from 60k at Liverpool to 50k at Napoli. Gets more game time, yeah, but I don't know about you guys, but Origi sort of strikes me as a player who isn't too worried about game time. I think he is just, he's happy being a backup. He understands that he's part of one of the greatest teams in English football, and his name is going to go down in history. To some, like Origi, that's worth, cutting out the game time. As a fan point of view, though, I do think it's probably time for him to move on. I think, with the likes of us bringing Luis Diaz in, Diogo Jota, he's now got to the point where he's not really the first choice off the bench or even second choice anymore. And, there's been rumours flying around even more that we are interested in another winger, and it seems like we are going to be signing another forward player who can play up front in multiple positions, whether that be Rafinha, Jared Bowen, there's numerous names linked. So, and I think somebody is going to have to leave the club, either Takumi Minamino or Divock Origi. And I think, I don't know about you guys, but Minamino's massively impressed me this season. I think in the cup competitions, which is something we've missed for years, is we've missed a cup scorer, someone who can just start one game and just bang in a couple of goals, and Minamino's been doing that pretty much in every cup game. So I do think it's time to part ways with Origi. We were looking for something ridiculous like 20 million for him. I'd take between 10 and 15 million, and thank you for your service. You've given us some amazing memories, but it's I think we can do a lot better than him as another forward player.
Yeah. With the articles mentioned, I would be swayed towards that Jed Spence one if he was a target for Liverpool. I watched him on Friday Night Football, actually, this weekend against Sheffield United, and he looks really good. He looks like the typical right back that we'd be looking for a backup. I think with Gomez as a Liverpool right back, he's not suited. When he gets past that halfway line in the attacking Ascencio, his brain kind of freezes. He's nothing like Trent, and I like Gomez, but I think Gomez is more of a centre-back project than a backup right back. Nico Williams looks good on loan. There's a massive clip of him hitting the bar from the halfway line. So and Fulham fans are delighted with him so far. So that looks like he could be a bright spark. But if he was going to move on, I'd like to see that Jed Spence, although I don't know the truth in the article if he's going to Bayern or not. The one with Ascencio brings alarm bells because I keep hearing his name. Seems to be building up every summer that we sort of linked to that Marco Ascencio. And for me, I don't particularly understand it unless Klopp is sincerely interested in that, then I trust it. But he's a right winger, left winger for Real Madrid, and he doesn't seem like he's that Liverpool forward like the names of Rafinha, Anthony, Bowen that we seem linked with, because he doesn't strike me as a fast player, a counter-attacking football player. If he's coming to replace Salah long term, or he's a backup to Mo, I think that's very contradicting, because I don't think they're similar players at all. Especially with the one that we just brought in, Diaz. Again, I think they're polar opposites in the style of football. So that one, I'm not sure about, but I'd love to see Jed Spence in a Liverpool shirt if we can lure him in from Bayern.
Yeah, I think basically pretty much nailed it with Ascencio. I don't think he's a Liverpool player. Ascencio's always been linked to Liverpool, I think, because he almost, well, I know he plays in from the left, but he almost like fits that Coutinho mold. And I think that when Liverpool fans were pining for a Coutinho-like player after he left and we never replaced him, I think that's where Ascencio came in, because he was never, an out-and-out starter for Madrid for one reason or another. I personally can't see that happening either. With the Jed Spence as well, I he is a player who is phenomenal. I watched that same match actually, and I thought he was a real talent. especially I think Nico. I mean, I'm hoping Nico will probably sweeten the deal for Fabio Carvalho. Maybe one goes one way and we can, sweeten the deal with Fulham to get Fabio Carvalho in. For me, though, I mean, Origi, I hope that he doesn't go, if I'm honest. I cannot see Liverpool signing anybody unless it's going to be a youngster that will be happy to sit on the bench. I think, Charlie, you're absolutely spot on by saying that Origi doesn't want the minutes. He's more than happy to create moments. And I actually do get excited every time I see Origi coming off the bench because anything can happen with this man. He is the enigma. He might drop a 3 out of 10. He might not even touch the ball when he comes on, but there's always that chance that he might do something. For me, completely agree with you with Minamino. I think he's been absolutely sensational. I think that for 8 million, it was very, very much well spent. He was never going to be that player to come and replace Firmino. That's what obviously he was touted to be. I genuinely don't think he was coming in to replace Firmino. I think that Diogo Jota is going to come in and play through the middle, or I hope he does anyway, because he's been highly effective through the middle. So yeah, I agree with what both of you are saying. I think it's going to be so interesting this summer what Liverpool do, which brings us on to one of our main topics, really, and this is headline news really on the Sports Illustrated and LFC Transfer Room webpage, and that's that Sadio Mane is concerned with FSG and that he thinks they want him out and are ready to cash in on the Liverpool superstar. Now, the Senegalese international is out of contract next summer, so he has just under 18 months left on his current deal. He's not the only forward, though, in Jurgen Klopp's squad in this situation, with Mohamed Salah and Bobby Firmino out of contract at the same time. Now, according to Football Insider, a recruitment source, they have said that Mane had hoped to secure his future by now and believes the quality of performance this season has vindicated a big money new deal. But after the signing of Luis Diaz, who has hit the ground running, looks like he's been here forever, another red arrow, believes that the focus being put on Salah's contract, Mane feels a little bit left out. And you can sort of understand where he's coming from. Sadio Mane was one of Jurgen Klopp's best signings. He has been phenomenal for the Reds. He's been absolutely brilliant. But, time is catching up. And if he is going to get squeezed out on that left-hand side for Luis Diaz, Mane's not, I don't think, a false nine. I don't think he can play in the middle. He doesn't connect to play up as much as Bobby, and he's not, I don't think he is that predator that Diogo Jota is. So, that front, we've said all along, the front three can't stay together for long. I would hate to see Mane go, but I would also hate to see him go on not feeling wanted. I would hope that he goes with his head held high, with 2 Premier League medals, 2 Champions League medals, and all of the rest of the silverware that he's won as well. What are your thoughts on the article, boys?
I don't believe a large majority of it. I think that Mane's been holding out on his contract until Salah signs his, so we can say to the club, like, okay, well, you guys rate Salah as this much, I want the exact same. However, I don't think that's going to matter, because I do think that the club do want to let him go, whether that be on a free transfer when his contract ends, or if you can cash in on him. At the end of the season, Luis Diaz has been brought in to be Mane's replacement. There's no denying that. So I think no matter what Mane leaves within the span of his contract, personally, I think I'd like to get money for him. I think we could probably get around 40-ish million, even with a year left on his contract. Let's say he goes to the French league, for instance. Yeah, Dembele's looking like he's going to stay at Barca now. So if PSG want Mbappe replacement, I think Mane goes there and he scores about 50 goals a season, if I'm being honest. It's great business for everybody. He's a native French speaker as well, so he fits right in. Language can be an issue with some players, so it wouldn't be an issue there. But, Luis Diaz, I know with this sort of going off track, but he just reminds me so much of Mane when he first joined. He's taken on players. He's fearless. He's flying into tackles. He's so direct with the ball. He just looks like a bag of confidence, and we haven't seen that from Mane really for coming up to 2 years now. And he's changed this game, but I don't think it's changed for the better. I think he's more of a, he likes to make runs in behind like Salah does. He's not as direct as, we have seen Diaz, and he's not a poacher like Jota is. I think he's just sort of stuck at the moment of not knowing what to do. And, with the way Diaz has been performing, it's only a matter of time before he eventually, gets chosen over him on a weekly basis. But as I said before, I fully expect Sadio Mane to leave. I think if one of the front three is going to leave, it's going to be him, because I think Bobby would be more than happy to be a backup player for the rest of his career. I think he loves Liverpool. He's got a massive fan base at the club, and he always will do. And I think no matter what, Mo's going to get extended, and one of them from three need to leave. It's not sustainable to have them all on the contracts that they are. So I do think Mane will be the one to take the hit, whether that be at the end of the year or at the end of the season or next season when his contract runs out. But that's my thoughts on Mane's situation.
Yeah, it's a tough one, really, because I'd hate to see one of the front three, the traditional front three, leave. In the dream scenario, I'd love Mane to sign an extension, but I don't think that looks possible. The dream scenario isn't possible because age keeps going on and the numbers keep and the legs in them keep getting older. So I think Salah's a guarantee. Salah has to stay. With it coming to Mane, for me, I'd rather, in my opinion, keep him on more than Bobby. Although I don't think he will, like Charlie just mentioned. I think Bobby's much more likely to be happier to be that bench player, to be that squad rotated player that the likes of Minamino and Origi have been in the past few years. With Mane, I actually think I've liked him in the top of the three in the recent games. He's played 4 games. He scored 4 goals. He is scoring the goals. He's not the Bobby Firmino that's going to link in play, because he's traditionally an inside forward, left winger. But he's scored goals and he's looked lively. And I think since he's come back from AFCON, he's got that spear in him. He's got that extra confidence that we're seeing a little glimpse of the Mane of old instead of the Mane of last season, which we didn't so much enjoy. So I'd love to keep Mane on. But if it's what we think, I do think he has to go, because I think you're going to get the more cash from it, which is going to help sign whoever they decide to replace him with alongside Diaz. He's going to bring in more revenue than Bobby. He's going to, and like we said, Bobby is a lot more happy to be that bench player. You see Mane coming off in the cup final just last week, how he threw his tantrum, just being subbed off. So Mane's not going to want to sit there and lose his place behind Diaz. And I think Jota and Salah, Jota deserves to be the 9 starting most games at the minute because of the form that he's been on, and Salah's irreplaceable. So I think what I'd want in a dreamland is Mane stays, and maybe we give him a 1-year extension. But I think what will happen is Bobby stays and Mane gets sold, because you can't keep all 3 of them with a year left on the contract. It's not possible, and it's also not possible to renew the contracts because the wage structure will then be absolutely crazy.
You're muted, Ritchie.
That's right. We'll cut that bit out. I completely forgot I was muted. The editors will cut it out. It's fine. I think it'll be a house of cards, really, with what happens with the front three, because if Salah signs, then it opens up moves elsewhere. If Salah doesn't sign, though, then obviously we'll be looking to hopefully keep Mane/Firmino, whichever way the deck falls, so to speak. But I agree with what Jamie said, really. I would love to see all 3 of them extend, and especially Mane and Bobby for a 1 year. I think I'd like to see Salah for a lot longer than that. But, Mane and Bobby for 1 year. I think a lot might depend actually on this year, because if we win the Premier League or Champions League this year, I think they might want to stay, because where else, if we win one of them, where else are they going to perhaps achieve that success, elsewhere that actually means something? Like we said about PSG, I know that Poch is making a meal out about, winning Ligue 1 at the moment, especially after the Nice result last night. But at the same time, it doesn't really mean anything, does it? Neymar and Mbappe, they've won several Ligue 1 titles, and it doesn't really matter. No one really is that bothered. Same for Bayern Munich. They seem to win it every year. And, it doesn't really make a difference. Whereas if you win the Premier League, you feel so vindicated, I think, because it is highly contested between two very, 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 very good clubs. I think Chelsea, depending on what happens, obviously, with the Abramovich situation, could be very well up there as well. So it'll be interesting what they do. But I did want to talk about Liverpool's right-hand side, because you've got Trent and you've obviously got Harvey Elliott, who I think is perhaps the player, if everybody's fit. I think that Harvey Elliott is the right person to put on the right side of that midfield, triangle. And then you've also got Salah. Now, none of those three can be replaced, but we do have to bring someone in to play on the right-hand side of defence. And we do have to bring someone in to play on the right-hand side of that forward line, purely because, as we mentioned earlier, I think Neco might be off to Fulham. Gomez, I completely agree, is a centre-back. And who plays if Salah doesn't? I know that Mane can play on that right-hand side, but if Mane's going, then this is null and void. So what do we do with that right-hand side? I think the midfield pretty much speaks for itself. I think Elliott, Jones and Keita, they can all switch in that role. Now, if we're talking about Elliott, how he used to be is a right forward. So maybe Elliott could move up there. But for me, if you are going to play Harvey Elliott, you have to play him in his right position. You can't just keep on switching and changing him. Okay, like I liken it to perhaps, a player of all positions. You need to be a master of one position. It's no good just saying, oh, okay, well, Mo's not playing this week. Harvey, you play on the right. It's not, for me, good enough. So what do you think happens? We mentioned Jed Spencer. We've mentioned Neco. We've got Connor Bradley, obviously, in the ranks as well, who is highly, rated, I think, by Klopp. I did expect actually to see him a few more times, perhaps this season. But what do you think happens to that right-hand side of Liverpool that is so important to the way in which we play?
I mean, I said obviously as the forward line, I'm still, even if Salah signs, I'm still convinced we sign a forward who can play in up front and on the left and on the right, whether that be Anthony, Jarrett Bowen, and a Hobby Barnes as a left winger, but he can play on the right. There's a lot of players that we have been linked with. Go on.
I put my hand up because I don't want to get the blur in. Those players you mentioned, though, I'm not going to be happy to sit on the bench.
Do you not think? I mean, look, Diogo Jota come in. Luis Diaz has been starting for Porto. He was the top goal scorer in the Premier League. We've been recently linked with Darwin Núñez too. I don't think that one's going to happen because I think he's got too many admirers, just like of Barcelona, where he would start and get more money. But we've seen this a lot where we have said, are these players going to come in and be happy to sit on the bench? But that's not what Liverpool is anymore. We play 60 games a year. We're going to now be competing for 4 competitions. Potentially more if we win the likes of the Champions League's changing as well in 2 years. It's going to be a group stage, like a massive group stage with more games. The Club World Cup as well, that's going to be turned into a competition. So, let's say in 2 years, we're going to be looking at seasons that are potentially getting into the 70, 80 season, a game of seasons if you're playing every single competition and going far in them all. So, players are going to come in and they're going to be like, okay, I may not be the first name on the team sheet, but I know if I put in performances, if I prove my worth, that I've got a good shot at getting onto this. And players decline. Look at Firmino, look at Manny. 2 years ago, would you have thought, okay, Mane and Firmino, absolutely amazing. They've helped us win, the Champions League and the Premier League. In 2 years, we weren't thinking Diogo Jota, Wolves player, and some random kid from Colombia are going to come in and be pushing these and even replacing them. So, it's hard to say what's going to happen in 2 years. And Liverpool's signing, the way they've been signing forwards has been the exact same with Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota, 24, 25-year-olds who are on the brink or being part of European football, but not with a top club. And they're being brought in as a bench player originally. And they're being able to challenge the front three. And arguably both of them have earned a starting position. Both hit the ground running straight away. So why can't the likes of Jarrett Bowen, who's at West Ham, or the likes of Anthony, who's at Ajax. You know, as much as Ajax are an unbelievable European side, then just it's not the Premier League, is it? It's not the same. So Rafinha, Leeds, he'd be more than happy to come and sit on the bench and play in the Championship. And the thing is as well, you know, you've got to realise a lot of these players have interest from other clubs too. But if they come to Liverpool, they're not thinking about the money. You know, money's always a factor, but I'm sure if Luis Diaz could have if he wanted to, he probably could have got double the wages at another club. But he's come to Liverpool because he believes in the project. He believes in everything that's happening here. So it's a certain type of player that we look at, and it's not money based, thankfully. So it's I do think we are going to sign a forward, as I said before, and I think a lot of players are going to be more than happy. As you said, I think the right-hand side of midfield sorted, especially with Henderson signing his contract. He can play there too, so he's going to be available. As you said, Naby Keita and Harvey Elliott in the future are probably going to be the two main players who play there. The defense is a good subject though, because we've seen how Tsimikas has come in and he's really showed us how important it is to have a fullback who can produce similar performances to Andy Robertson. And when we play him, it doesn't look a miss. He looks like he's been playing in the side for decades. So it's, you know, it really is important. Trent is a bit different though, because I think Trent is genuinely generational. And I don't think there's many players in world football who can produce what he does. So it's a bit difficult compared to Robbo. I think Robbo can be replaced to a certain extent. Trent's a difficult one. I don't think we replace him. I think we focus on Conor Bradley and hope that he can, you know, become better than Nico Williams eventually. But I think that's my view on the whole right-hand side. But again, look, anything can happen. We don't know what Liverpool have planned. But my ideal one would be sign a forward who can play multiple positions and, you know, nurture Conor Bradley to come through to the main team.
Yeah, I think you look at how gifted we are with the right side and the whole squad. We've got the best right side in world football with Trent and Salah, and I believe whichever midfield that goes on the right side is very, very strong, whether it's Elliott, Henderson, Thiago, Keita. It doesn't matter. They're all part of Liverpool Football Club for a reason, and that's because they're a brilliant player. Like Charlie mentioned, it's all about believing in the project. Now, as much as it kills me to mention it, Klopp brought up that the plan right now is to leave in 2024. I personally, I have a gut feeling inside me that he's going to sign a couple of years on, but at the minute, it's 2024 and then that's it. So it's all about building. And I think that's exactly what we're doing. I think the signings of intent are there. Jota, building for the future, 24 years old, already producing what he's produced. It is absolutely massive. Diaz, again, 25 years old. And we were looking very heavily looking at Fabio Carvalho. That one just fell through on deadline day, but I'm still 100% sure that he'll be our player in the summer. And then that is a 19-year-old player who's got a bright future ahead of him. So it's all about the project we're building. Possibly with Trent when he's older, we're sorted because he 22 now, 23, performing at the levels that we've just mentioned is unbelievable. The only one we have to look for in 2024 is Salah's 32. Hopefully he's still with us at that time, but then that's probably when he'll start trailing off. Salah, unfortunately, so that's possibly the thing that we have to look at with the right side. But I feel like we're more than capable with Elliott in the right centre mid, Trent being young, and if we go for Jed Spence again, youngster. If not, we've got Nico or Conor Bradley or whoever comes up with the ranks is young. So with the right side, we've got a massive future there. I'm excited to see what we produce with it. We've also got Curtis Jones, who I think is slept on massively. I think the Liverpool Football Club fan base held him to such high standards because he's the next Scouse midfielder that's come up the ranks, come up the academy. So all of a sudden he needs to be that good at 19 years of age. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I think in the first cameo at Norwich, unfortunately come off injured at half time, but he was absolutely superb. I think he gets harshly treated. That's another kid that we've got massive potentials in. Kanate's 22. So you look at the squad. Charlie mentioned Simicaz, who's absolutely fantastic. What's he, 25, 26? So in terms... Go on, Ritchie.
No, 24.
24,
you know. So.
Exactly. So we got a massive future no matter what. And it's about building for the years after Klopp, because that's when we have to be prepared for. In my opinion, I don't know what you guys think, but I have a feeling that Klopp's successor will be Pep Lijnders. Now, I know that's an on-the-fence statement. It seems 50-50 split, but the signing suggests it. Klopp said how much of an admirer of Pep Lijnders that he was of Diaz. He's the player we get. And Pep Lijnders describes Diogo Jota as the pressing machine, another player that he values really high. So I have a feeling that Pep Lijnders will be Klopp's successor, and if so, and if these are the signings that we bring, that we're bringing in, I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to what it holds. But regarding the right side, I really do strongly believe we've got one of the best, if not the best, right side in world football, with the best right back, the best right winger in the world, and whoever plays right centre mid is very comfortable in probably being up there.
Yeah, I completely agree, Jamie, with what you said. It's really, I mean, it's a podcast for another day, isn't it? The successor of Jurgen Klopp. I would, I don't know. He said something in the press conference that made me think he would perhaps sign an extension. I genuinely believe that he loves the club and he would not leave Liverpool unless there is a successor. And, if there isn't one, I think he would stay until there is. I do not see at this moment.
He's got to sign at least another year, 10 years.
I have a feeling he will.
I genuinely think that, I think he's waiting for that Germany job. Now, the current German manager has waited for this job for a very, very, very long time. And he's not going to move away anytime soon, Hansi Flick. So, I can't see it. I think that Klopp finishes club football and I think he'll wait for Germany. Now, hopefully that is what happens. And, hopefully that's what happens, because he is, for me, the best manager in the world. And Pep does come a close second. I'll give him his due. Pep comes a close second, but there's no way that Pep could have turned that starting 11 around at Liverpool with the financial restraints that Jurgen Klopp had. There's just no way. So, Klopp for me is the best in the business, and hopefully doesn't hang up his boots just yet in terms of management. But, Liverpool are building for the future. And for so many times here on this podcast, we all said we need a Klopp version 0.2. We need a Klopp version 0.3. It's happened, and it's actually happened under our noses, because Simicaz has come in. Konate looks absolutely phenomenal. And I completely agree with you, Jamie. I thought Curtis Jones was the best player on that pitch against Norwich. He ran that show. He was pulling the strings. He was here, there, and everywhere. So, Liverpool are building for the future. They've got a great academy, as they always have had. The proudest part of being a Liverpool fan is seeing through so many, I'm 34, so I'm, getting on a bit. I apologize for the listeners older than us. But I do remember the likes coming through the academy of Owen, of McManaman, of Fowler, of Gerrard, of Carragher. Now Trent's coming through. And then you've got Conor Bradley verging in. You've got Harvey Elliott. I know he was at Fulham Academy, and I still class him as a Liverpool lad, because he was a Liverpool fan. And it's just so exciting to see all of these players coming through. So hopefully, whatever happens, we are left in a very, very strong position. Whatever happens with Klopp, and I think that right-hand side does need to be reinforced, because Salah cannot go on forever. I think he'll probably go on at this level till about 34, 35, which is fine for us because he's only just turned 30, 31 perhaps. So yeah, we shall definitely see, but he's got a bit of James Milner about him, hasn't he? He's good for a cameo every now and then. Any final thoughts, lads, before we wrap up?
I just thought quickly on that, the building for the future sort of thing. We didn't have anybody come through the academy in absolutely years. We had like John Flanagan, Jay Spearin. There was nobody coming through the academy. But I mean, I watch academy games as much as I can, and the under 18s, the under 23s, we've got the next Alisson in goal, for the under 23s in Pitolagua. I think that's how you say his name. I think his name's James Norris, the lad who we signed from Newcastle. Unbelievable. Oakley Cannonier as well, the ball boy for Trent. He's scoring a goal every game for the under-18s. Mateusz Muszalowski. I can go on and on and on and on. Since
Big
we've
Billy,
moved,
Big Billy.
yeah, and there's a lot of centre backs as well. Cometio, Gerald Quinesh. There's one for the under-18s who played unbelievable against Stoke. What his name is, but he's the captain for them. So since we've moved to AXA, it's been by far the correct decision. The best decision we've made in probably in the Klopp era as a club sort of point of view, and we know that Klopp had a massive say in this in moving from Melwood, even though Melwood is such a historical place. It couldn't do the capacity that AXA was doing. So for the future, we do look at sorted with the amount of players that are coming through the academy at the moment, and within the next 2-3 years, we're going to see what these players are made of, and if they can start pushing for the first team. And as you said before, we've already seen some of these players come through, like your Tyler Mortons, Curtis Jones. I know he's a bit later, but Trent Alexander-Arnold, even Connor Bradley as well. So it's a bright future for the Liverpool training centre, and sort of that Klopp is meticulously overseen with Liverpool.
Yeah. The future's so bright. I just like to say about that right side and Elliot as well. I just want to touch a little bit more on him because this kid really is, I think, going to be the next big thing. And the reason I say that is you look at him pre the injury, the horrific injury that he had, and you just look at the trust Klopp installed in him. Klopp rates this youngster so highly. Start of the season, he started in against Chelsea. Chelsea were champions of Europe at this time, won 3-3 going into the game. Fantastic form, and he had trust in this 18-year-old kid that's just come on loan from Blackburn. So I think that speaks volumes about Harvey Elliott and the academy and the work that they're doing there, because he's not going to be the only one. He's just the most recent one to come up. So like you said, Charlie, the names that you mentioned in the academy is very exciting. You've seen a couple of them come into the cup games and look good. I think Cade Gordon's a name that we need to mention as well, because he's got a massive future ahead of him. Klopp trusts him in the cup games and he looks so sharp. Great goal against Shrewsbury as well. So there's exciting years to come past the Klopp era, which is going to be devastating to see. And you look at the aging squad, but you've just got to trust in the club and the process, because I think the way we're running it's brilliantly. If we can get hold of Fabio Carvalho as well, that'd be another massive youngster to the tally. So yeah, we got to be excited for the future and just trust it in whatever the club brings in, really.
Yeah, I agree. And you've got the likes of Tyler Morton, who's obviously, a fantastic youngster, and Elijah Dixon-Bonner as well, who have obviously made their first team debuts this season as well. So it does look good. But, we're Liverpool fans, and we get optimistic, but that's what sport is. We want to believe, and we dare to believe, and we should believe as well, because this is Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, and, anything can happen. But that rounds us off very, very nicely. I'd like to thank you both, chaps, for a very insightful and also a very enjoyable podcast as well. There's lots of things that we covered there. And yeah, I want to thank you both very, very much for that, especially on your debuts as well. So yeah, thank you for that. And I hope that you had fun in doing so. But until next time, the future is always bright with Liverpool. The future's red. But from The Room, the podcast brought to you from LFC Transfer Room, we would obviously like to finish with our mantra, up the red.